Hi, friends. Thank you so much for deciding to go on this 30-day devotional journey towards better relationships. I really believe that in 2014, it's time to do relationships better. So I have had a ball, and I continue to do so with my friends. Tremendous people, great people of influence, great leaders in their respective fields. But we have been just sitting around and discussing my brand new book, The People Factor. And I'm telling you, chapter 10 is one that is a biggie for me. Now, here's the big question that runs through chapter 10, which is what I call the law of constructive transition. What do you do when a relationship that has been valuable in your life, which has been a good one, what do you do when that good relationship becomes bad because God has moved you to a different place? See, in the book, the majority of what I talk about is identifying good relationships, how to maintain good relationships. But here's the big issue in chapter 10. If you're not careful, your best relationship can become your biggest stumbling block. Because sometimes those individuals who've been great in one season of your life won't understand what God is doing in this new season. That's right. So how do you constructively transition a relationship? Not necessarily bringing it to an end, but moving it so that it has a different sense of weight or value in your life so that you can move forward with what God is calling for you to do or whatever the next big adventure is for your life, and not be held back because that person who has been valuable, they don't see it, they don't get it. This happens all the time. I'll say this and then let's jump into the discussion. Jim Collins, in his book, Good to Great, talks a lot about how you've got to have the right people on the bus, and then you've got to have the right people in the right seats. Well, I think the law of constructive transition really connects with that, because great relationships can turn with you. But sometimes people who've been significant in your life are great as long as the bus of your life is going in one direction. But what happens when it's time to turn? What happens when you're no longer the big radio and television personality? Will those friends that were valuable in that field, will they still be with you in this new turn? That's what the law of constructive transition is about. Let's jump into it. Tasha.
I'm captivated by the notion of this bus, because I'm a visual person.
Right.
So I immediately see the bus trekking, and I actually have a relationship right now that is in transition. And I haven't put the person off the bus. Mm-hmm. I don't think it's necessary based upon what I've been learning from the people factor. Mm-hmm. I don't have to get to the bus stop and say, hey, this is your stop, get off. You know, you need to leave. Right. And you discuss it actually with Peter and Christ. But I don't know, I just see the visual of so many times in our lives, people have been on the bus. There needs to be the transition in the relationship. Here comes the turn, and you push them out. The bus hasn't even stopped. That's what I'm seeing. The bus hasn't stopped, and you push the person out. That's painful.
Very much so.
And so if you're not careful, you'll push people off your bus too soon. Right. And that's not good. And then I was also wondering, how many times have I been someone's Peter? I don't want to be someone's Peter, but I would imagine that at some point in my life, I may have been someone's Peter. I don't want to be the significant person in your life that is effectively standing between you and your destiny. Yeah, I have to be in right position. I don't want to cause someone's hindrance in their process and in their life. And I can see myself doing that in love, if you will. So I love you. I care about you tremendously, and I don't want to let you go. But if I don't let you go, you won't reach your next level.
Or if I don't understand that even though I can't see where you're going, I can still support you in it.
Yeah.
It may not make sense to me, but I can still support you. That's turning well. That when we go through big major turns, great relationships will lean with us in the turn. A lot of times, you know that you're not in a good relationship when it's time for that turn and that person won't lean with you. And by leaning, it means that maybe I don't understand, but I will support you in it.
Yeah.
This is something that I at least expected for you, but I have your back as you make that turn. And a lot of times people can't do it. And a lot of times if they can't do it, the hard work is that we got to do it for them. Because like I talk about with Peter, if you're not careful, your stepping stone can become your stumbling block.
Tasha, you mentioned perhaps it's time for somebody to get off the bus. And it made me think perhaps it's time for us to get on the bus.
Wow.
And Pastor Ben, I had to laugh out loud when you said you'd still be single if you didn't decide to leave your dad.
Yeah.
You were having a great time reconnecting with your father after all those years.
Yeah.
But if you weren't willing to leave him and have that constructive transition, obviously you love your dad, but you'd like to be married and have children of your own, you know? What does that require? A transition. And if you think about life and all the phases that we go through in life, you must be evolving. How do you evolve? Through transition. And it's bumpy on the bus. And think about Abraham. God said, move. Now, what if Abraham said, not in the mood, I'm going to stay right here. I don't have to divide up land with Lot because I'm comfy right in my chair. I got my easy chair. I got my... We must be willing to constructively transition.
That's good.
Wow. Roxanne, that was awesome. You know, to think about, you know, we often talk about getting people off the bus and putting people off the bus and out of our lives, those people that don't need to be there. But the thought that it's time for us to get on the bus, I had never really thought about it quite like that. And I think there are times when we need to realize, okay, it is time for us to get on the bus. It's time for us to get in the game. It's time for us to do the things that God has intended for us to do. And Pas, when you mentioned earlier about people not understanding, that it's actually written right here in this book. It reminds me of I call it my theme song, and it's one of Yolanda Adams' songs, Never Give Up, and Keep the Dream Alive, you know, don't let it die. There's a line in there that says people won't understand. You know, it's your idea, it's your dream, but people won't understand. And it's tough to go through that and know that it's your dream, and then people are saying, you know, are you sure that's what you want to do? Are you sure that's what you want to do? I wouldn't do that because, you know, it's not going to pay this, it's not going to do this, it's not that prestigious. Don't you want something better for yourself? Once you learn to pray and ask God to lead you where He wants you to be and to block those things that are not for you, the answers won't always be what you're expecting them to be or even what you want them to be. But you have to be ready for those answers. And you have to go. Because what happens is you stay where you are, that comfy seat that you were talking about, and the dream that you really had that wasn't what God had planned for you, it never comes to pass.
You know, I'm thinking about this, and it hits me in so many different ways. And it makes me think about what you said, Stephanie and Tasha. A lot of times it really goes down to who are you really listening to? And so the thing about it is you have to be willing and understanding that, listen, I'm going to trust God completely. You know, if this person has the right intentions for the best of my being for me, then regardless of what turn that I make, they're still going to be there to support me. If they're not, then they weren't meant to be around me in the first place. And that's the thing that you have to really be able to understand. And it's tough. It is tough because we are people who want process here, comfort here, you want this, and to be in a place of discomfort, in a place of, you know, okay, there's not that much balance. You don't feel that, but yet you're in a place where God is putting you and you're saying, I'm totally going to trust you, and that's who I'm listening to. And that's a challenge. It's a big challenge. But I mean, that really just is what stood out to me, just listening to the different dialogue we've talked about with this chapter, but it's a powerful thing.
Well, guys, this has been some interesting discussion. For me, it's been revelatory. But I wonder for those of you that are watching, are you in a season where it's time to make some constructive transitions? I've been talking every day that you've joined us about the fact that I really believe that 2014 is the year to do relationships better. But for you, it may mean transitioning a relationship that's been near and dear to you for maybe a long part of your life. But here's what I want to encourage you with as we close today. Make sure that the most important voice you hear is that of God, because God may be leading you someplace that the people around you don't quite understand. And take it from personal experience. Go with God, because if you do, it'll all work out in the end. So listen, make sure you pick up a copy of The People Factor, and hopefully you'll continue to go on this 30-day video devotional journey with us. Take care.